Hello and welcome to the Surfies Forever video, which is part of the 3P series Practicing Pseudocode Problems. Please make sure, as always, you have your Surfies Forever booklet, coloured pencils and pen. So, let's get started. Before you work your way through this video, spend some time looking in your programming booklet and remind yourself how to use case statements, while loops and records. You should be quite familiar with case statements as we did these in the last video. While loops were covered last year and records are the new material we are looking at in year 12. I cannot emphasize enough the need to really understand how both arrays and records work. Again, let us have a quick reminder of how to write a case statement. A case statement has keywords case and end case. The name of the case statement is connected to the condition part of the statement. The condition and the action parts are separated by a colon. All of the possible actions available are indented so that it is easy to read. The case statement is closed using the word end case, and then any outputting is done after the end case keyword. Here is our tick sheet again, and we should be getting very familiar with this as well. Please continue to use it as it helps you to plan how to work through a pseudocode problem. My hope is that you'll be able to memorize this tick sheet and work through any pseudocode problem in a quick and systematic way. Here is our first question, and you will find this question on page 1 of your booklet. As always, read the question through thoroughly at least twice. Now, with your ever-improving trained eyes, you should be able to pick out the most important parts of this problem. We can see that there will be some calculations and input and output. The output can only be displayed once the new purchase price has been calculated. So, with your coloured pencils, annotate the question on page 1 and identify any inputs, processing outputs and any other important information. You can see my annotation on the next slide. Okay, here is my annotation and hopefully yours is similar. Please make sure your annotation is the same as mine. Where it says display the purchase price the customer will pay, this is going to need a calculation before the output. I would put this calculation in your table, which you will be doing next. So, this is what we have done so far. Now, as part of the requirements, you need to decide what selections, i.e. a case statement, are needed and if any loops are needed. So, on page 2, complete the requirements and the table, then have a look on the next slide to see how I have broken down the question. We have a number of requirements. Empty purchases will be an input. The first calculation is the case statement selecting the right action. The second calculation is using the MV amount as part of the calculation to find the new MT purchases. The output will be the new MT purchase cost. So pause the video and make sure your requirements and table are the same as mine, then continue. So now we come to the checklist where we will select the elements we need for our pseudocode. Your checklist is at the bottom of page 2. Have a go at highlighting the various elements on your checklist you think you will need. Pause the video while you do this, then when you're ready, look at my selections on the next slide. Here are the elements I think are needed and the order they need to be put in order to write this pseudocode correctly. Pause the video and make sure you have highlighted the same elements as I have done. So, now we are ready to write our code. Pause the video for a moment and have a go at writing the code yourself. When you are ready, we will go through the solution over the next few slides. As always, the first thing we need to put in is the title. In this solution, we are not writing a submodule, but just one block of code. So we call it procedure with the name of the procedure after it. So the name of our procedure is calculate voucher amount. We then put in the keyword begin, as you can see here. After the word begin, we will put in the variables, the data types and any initialization. The reason we initialize is to clear any residual data from the last time the program was used. So in this case, both MT purchases and MV amount have a data type of integer and have been initialized to 0. We then put in the inputs. In this case, it will be the MT, meaning monthly total purchases. Now, with the input put in, we can build our case statement. Here is the case statement. We open with the keyword case. MT purchases relate to the condition. We then have semicolons followed by the various actions that can be taken. So depending upon the MT purchases will result in how much a discount the MV amount will be. As always, we need to bookend our control structure, so we use end case. End case is shown here. Also take note that the content inside the case statement has been indented for easy reading. Now we need to make a calculation to find the new MT purchases with the MV amount taken into account. The calculation in brackets is what we need to find first. This is finding the percentage amount to be taken off the MT purchases. This is then subtracted from MT purchases and the result is in the new MT purchases amount. Again, please note that I have used the keyword calculate as it is easier for the user to see what is going on in your pseudocode. After the calculation comes the output. Within the brackets and in speech marks, you will see a string of words which are to be printed. After these words, the variable amount for MT purchases will also be shown. To close out this algorithm, we finish with the keyword end. Here is the solution in its entirety. This is an exercise you can do. Your solution is going to involve writing a submodule, not the main module procedure. The submodule is going to be a by value parameter and the by reference parameter is discount. So the output will not be shown in this submodule. Pause the video for a moment and as you have done on many occasions, complete all the stages you need to do on pages 4, 5 and 6. When you are ready, you'll be able to see two possible solutions on the next slide. Here are the solutions. The first solution uses a case statement. Whatever the result is returned through the discount parameter. The second solution does the same calculation, but in this solution we are using an if-then-else statement. Okay, so now on to something a little more challenging. Pause the video and read through the question a couple of times at least, and see if you can understand what the question is asking you to do. When you are ready, start the video again and we will analyse this question in a little more detail. The first thing that you will see is that we are dealing with a record. In your Year 12 course, it's really important to make sure that you are very familiar with both arrays and records. It is pretty much a guarantee that you're going to get one of these in an extended question. So you really do need to know how to write and use both of these variables. Stock data has several fields from stock ID down to stock last update date. For each item in the stock data record, the field stock QOH quantity on hand, will store how many there are of a particular item. So, let's say for example an item is socks. The stock, QOH, could show that there are 50 items currently in store, which are the socks. Now, as we read a little further down, there is a variable that is called GStockID. This is already holding a value which needs to be matched to the items that are being searched for in the stock data record. A second variable, GStockQOH, will eventually hold the stock QOH value when a match is made. In the last paragraph, we're going to need to write a module called getStockID that uses a global variable called GStockID. As the program reads through all of the various items scored within the stock data records, its purpose is to match the stock ID with the value stored in the GStock variable. When there is a match, the stock QOH value is put into GStock QOH. So, pictorially, it looks like this. The program will search through all of the items in the stock data record until it reaches the end of the file. When a match is found with the value already in the GStockID with the record that is currently being searched, then the value in the field stock QOH is put into the variable GStockQOH. We are going to need to write the pseudocode that will do this. Now, I appreciate that this is quite a bit to take in. You may well need to look back in the video a number of times to really get what I'm saying. And that's absolutely fine. Of course, if you're still struggling, then come and see me and we can talk about it. Before we launch into this problem, let's remind ourselves of how to write a while loop. You can see from the slide the definition and the features of a while loop. Take a moment to read these through. The key words for a while are while and end while. You can also see an example of how a while loop works. The pseudocode example shows, to start with, some initialization followed by the while loop. To enter the while loop, a grade must be 0 or more than 0. Once in the while loop, 3 instructions are executed. Whatever the grade score is, it is added to the total grade. There is a counter which increases or increments by 1 every time a grade is entered. The instruction to input grade is used to test the while condition. If the condition remains true, then the grade just entered is added to the total grade. The while loop is the bookend with the keyword end while. We then have a calculation outside the loop which will calculate the average grade. The average grade is then shown in the output. Now, let's spend a few moments looking at how to combine a record and a while loop. On this slide, we see the employee data record being declared. You will see that each field has a data type, and for those fields with a string data type, a field length is shown as well. After the record has been declared, we use the keyword end type. Once this is done, the record is opened. Again, take notes on how to open a record. We have the keyword open, followed by the word record, then the name of the record. So we have open record employee data. The next part of the pseudocode is the declaring of variables and initialization. X represents the records in the employee data record, and like an array, it starts at 0. This X equals 0 is also important as it tests the condition of the while loop, and because we are less than 15, it allows us to enter the while loop as the condition is true. The while loop will remain true whilst records 0 to 14 are entered, which means there will be 15 records. After this, we come out of the while loop, close the record, perform a calculation, and finally output the total and average amounts before the keyword end. Here is our second example. We start with the keyword begin, like we did in the previous example. The record test scores record is declared. With tests, the fields given a data type, and the string data types also displaying their field lengths. As in the previous example, notice the indentation shown when declaring a record. We open record, declare and initialize variables, and then enter the while loop. In this particular while loop, there is a lot going on. There is the inputting of the data for each record. There are also calculations going on within the while loop. The reason for this is that we are wanting to show for each record that pupil's own total score and their average from all of the tests they took. Then these results are to be outputted before the counter is incremented by 1, and we go on to the next record. After 12 records have been inputted, we come out of the while loop, close the record and end. Now, you will want to pause the video and really make sure that you understand the pseudocode on slide 36 and 37 before you continue any further. As always, if you have any questions, have a chat with your classmates and come and see me as well. Now, we're about to start task 2, so turn on to page 7 in your booklet. As always, here is our tick list. At the bottom of page 7 is the question. Can you pause the video and complete the first 3 bullet points? So, read the question carefully, use your coloured pencils to identify inputs, processing, outputs and any other important information. My solution is on the next slide when you are ready. Okay, here is what I think are the important parts of this question, and you can see that I have identified them with different colours. Please make sure that your annotation is the same as mine. Use your tick sheet and tick off the stages that you have completed. Now, on page 8 of your booklet, have a go at completing the requirements and the table. Again, you will need to pause the video. Then, when you're ready, look at the next slide to have a look at the answers. Here you can see there are quite a number of requirements. My table is quite small, with it describing what the processing will do. I have also not put in an output, as all we are being asked to do is to place the correct value into the gstock QOH variable. So, now onto the checklist. Pause the video and have a go at highlighting the elements you think you will need for this pseudocode solution. When you're ready, my solution is on the next slide. On this slide, you can see what I think is going to be needed to complete this pseudocode. Make sure that yours is the same. Now we come to the bit you have all been waiting for, the writing of the code. Use the examples I have given you to help you. Look carefully at how to declare record, declare and initialize variables, and how to use a while statement, and the counter, and how to close out a record and end the procedure. Remember that these records are in a file. Stop the video, write your pseudocode, then when you're ready, my solution is on the next slide. Good luck. Well, how did you get on? Did you get anywhere close? Let's have a look at the answer. We start with the title, and then we need to put our global variables in. The global variables are before the keyword begin. We then declare the stock data record and then open the stock data record. The while loop is tested, entering the loop with an input. The while loop will continue until it reaches the EOF, end of file. Inside the while loop we have an if statement. The if statement says that if the stock ID matches the value in the gStockID variable, then whatever the stock QOH is will also be the gStock QOH. Then the while loop will close, as will the record, and then program would end. If, however, that is not true, then the instruction inside the while loop of input stock ID goes on to the next record. As always, if you have a question, come and see me, have a chat with me and your classmates. Please make sure that on page 9 of your booklet you have both put your answer and my answer. So now we come on to one you can do all on your own. It is very similar to the one you've just done. You will find this question on page 10 of your booklet. On page 11 of your booklet, please complete the requirements, table and checklist before you go on to page 12 and write your solution. Here on our last slide, the checklist of what you need to have completed. Please make sure that where you need to write something down, you have done so. Thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.